Hey everyone, my name is Pong from StrengthsAsia, and I'm so excited to be back second year in a row to the Talent Pavilion. Last year I spoke about you own your conversation, and today it's my great pleasure and privilege to be able to talk about everything is conversation. And I want to start this masterclass with two simple questions. My first question of the day is this: what is something that we as adults need to thrive in our lives and at work that we are not teaching our children in schools? Now, I posed this question to leaders of industries, to my clients, to my friends, and here are some really interesting answers that they shared with me. And they said, look, we need children to be more agile. We need them to take more risk. We need them to be more curious, to ask questions, to communicate well, and to be confident. And the list actually goes on and on and on. And when you look at all these insights, there's one thing that ties everything together. And that one thing is conversation. To be agile, to be curious, to take risk, to communicate well, and to be confident, these are not things that you can do alone. You need people to do them with. They all involve you and people around you. Now, unless you and we live in a vacuum and we are infinitely socially distant from each other, everything that we do and experience is a result of the conversations that we will have or the conversations that we have had with people around us. Now, why is that? Because everything is conversation. Being agile is conversation. Taking risk is conversation. Curiosity is conversation. Leadership is conversation. Relationship is conversation. Culture is conversation. Our successes and failures, they are all about the conversations that we have and will have. And my second question for the day is this: when do you feel powerless at work? Now, I asked this question to thousands of people all around the world that comes from my workshops, and here are some of the responses that they gave to me. I feel powerless when I don't have a voice. I feel powerless when I'm not heard. I feel powerless when I'm not understood. I feel powerless when I don't understand why decisions are being made. I feel powerless when I'm ignored. Now, once again, if you look at all these responses, all these events of powerlessness at work, again, they all involve one single thing. And that thing, it's our voice. It's our talk. It's our conversations. Everything is conversation. And in a very large part, ladies and gentlemen, the quality of our lives, of our work and relationships, they all revolve around our talk. There's something just so special about talk, and I am really, really captivated by it. Talk is the most persistent and repeated behavior in every one of us. We do it all the time and every day, and yet many of us do not pay too much attention to the way we talk. We don't really think about how we talk, we just talk. And talking really is like breathing. We can't do without it, we don't think about it, we take it for granted, we just do it. Talk is the invisible and single most taken for granted underdeveloped asset in our lives. The power and the influence of our talk is undeniable. Our talk is that auditory projection that conveys our invisible thoughts, our imaginative ideas, our hidden fears, our unique personalities to people around us. It gives people the ability to comprehend, to understand, to contextualize and make sense of what they see in us, who we are, what we do, why we do, what we think, where we are going. Because without talk, there will be no words. And we could well be just like a silent movie to people, isn't it? They would have to guess the meaning of every gesture, every frown, and every scowl. But with words, ladies and gentlemen, it gives meaning to that gesture, to that frown, to that scowl. People has the context to understand and experience each other. With words, we can make meaningful connections with one another. Do we draw close or do we draw away? Do we agree or do we disagree? How we talk has an immense effect on how people think, feel, and behave around us. Our talk gives people the experience of us. It affects how others see us, believe us, trust us. Talk is action, and they have consequences. When you say something, something will happen. There will be a response, there will be a reaction. And when you and I don't say anything, something else will also happen. Our words, or absence of words, have meaning whether it is intended or not. And whether intended or otherwise, it will always carry a unique response from people around us. Because everything is conversation, in its presence or in its absence. Leadership is conversation, relationship is conversation, culture, success, failure, they are all conversations. So regardless of what you and I do or who you have in your lives, if you want to have greater meaning and purpose, if you want to have greater success in your business, in your lives, if you want to have more quality relationships, a better life, then I believe that your talk is that bridge to getting all of that. Listen to what Kevin Ayre of Soundwave said. He said, amazing things happen between people when the quality of their conversations is good. Your talk is that unique asset that you have that needs to be revealed in your lives. You need to see how you talk, because what you cannot see, you cannot build. What you cannot build, you cannot use. But when you can see how you talk, you can grow it, you can develop it, and you can use it to set the course of your life on fire and change the world around you. Because everything is conversation. Our talk is too important an asset in our lives to be ignored. So I want to take the remaining of our time here to share the 4 myths and the truth of our talk. Myth number 1, I cannot change how I talk. Well, first of all, the way we talk is habitual. Now that's a fact. And on top of this, most of us are unaware of how we talk. Now that does not mean that we cannot change. I think a reason why we believe this myth that we cannot change how we talk is because when we look at people around us, we get the impression that people talk the same all the time. I mean, just look at our friends and the people that we've known for a very, very long time, isn't it? You know, how have we known them to talk since the day we knew them? Are they the asking type? Are they the suggesting type? Are they the telling type? Have they changed how they talk since we first knew them? It is most likely that most people that we have known haven't changed much in the way they talk. The askers are likely still be askers, the suggesters are likely to be still suggesting, and the tellers are likely to be still tellers, right? A second reason why I think many of us feel that we cannot change our talk simply lies in the fact that we have subconsciously been practicing our habit of talk over the years of our life. So if you are 25 or 50 years old today, that's how many years you have taken to practice your habit of talking today. Now, 25 or 50 years of practice is a really, really long time. Plus the fact that you are unaware of your habit of talk. And that's why it can feel so difficult to change our talk. But that is a myth, because the truth is that our talk can change. According to Kevin Ayre of Soundwave, he said this: we may be fixated on our talk, but our talk is not fixed. Our talk can be extremely fluid. In other words, we can become more aware, be more skillful, and be more intentional to bring about the right outcomes we want through the way we talk. The truth is this: we can learn to target our talk, to go from intentions to impact so that we have the ability to shift the dialogue when we want to, change the conversation when we have to, in order to shape the culture the way we want to. Myth number 2, we should listen more and talk less. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, right? That we all have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and therefore we should learn to talk less and listen more. Now, honestly, I personally find this maxim to be grossly overused in glorifying listening over talking, and in the process, limiting our ability to be great communicators. Why is that? Because it would seem that listening is proclaim the angel and talk the devil, isn't it? Now, because of that, people prefer that you listen more and talk less. But this is a myth, because when voice is needed and silence prevails, opportunities are lost and bad things can happen. This myth can silence our voices unnecessarily, because it can make people fearful of talking, and it can blame talk for all the miscommunication and all the unintended consequences. Now, I'm not saying listening is not important, but what I'm saying is this. I don't think listening is more important than talking, because I do think that listening and talking are as important on its own and to each other. We need to listen better to talk better, and we need to talk better in order to listen better. We can talk better by asking better questions, challenging more skillfully, critiquing more objectively, so that we can listen to what we must a whole lot more clearly, a whole lot more contextually. The truth is this, ladies and gentlemen, we need to listen to talk, and we need to talk to listen. Myth number 3, my talk conveys all my intentions. Now listen to what George Bernard Shaw said. The biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Now, everybody, I want you to think about all those colleagues at work that could be seen to be constantly challenging people in meetings, or advocating their views all the time, or probing people all the time, right? And now let's assume that all these colleagues of ours, they genuinely have good intentions. Now, for those colleagues that challenge us, their intentions of challenging is change. They are trying to get people to see a different perspective, to understand things differently. But if you are someone that is challenging out of habit, and you are unaware that you're challenging, there is a risk that your challenge may not be seen as a persuasion for change, but your challenge could be seen, could be felt as an attack on people's opinions. Have you felt that about the colleagues that challenge us all the time? Similarly, if you are constantly advocating for something that you stand for or believe in, there is a risk that instead of sharing your beliefs, people may feel that you're destroying their beliefs because you are unconscious and unaware in their advocation. Or if you are habitually probing, right, and you are unaware that you're overdoing it, instead of getting the insights that you want, people may actually feel that you're overly intruding into their private space. Our intentions may be good, but how we talk may not be what we intended to convey. It's not what we say that matters, but it's how we say it that makes people feel that it truly matters. Now we come to the last myth, myth number 4. People without authority should not speak up. Now, this is, to me, one of the most important myths that we need to bust, because there are many people that I've spoken to who believes that when they have no authority, they don't have influence at the table. And by authority, what I mean is their appointment, their role, their expertise, their knowledge, their experience. So if they do not have any of that, they feel that they should not be speaking up. There should not be any influence. Now, how many of us actually feel this way? How would you talk? When you're in the presence of people more senior than you are and have more authority than you do. I remember when I was a young banker working for a Singapore bank many years ago, I did felt the pressure and the need to have authority so that I have the credibility to speak up. And without that authority, I kept silent and spoke only when spoken to. And all my colleagues pretty much did the same thing. Everybody, did the same thing. Everybody told the unspoken line. No authority, no talk. It were the senior people at the table that control all the conversations. They critique and challenge the decisions. They have the unquestioned confidence and power in dictating the flow of the conversations. The rest of us watched, nodded, and answered when needed. Now, perhaps that's just my experience from years and years ago. Maybe this is no longer the case nowadays, or maybe not. Because if it is, then it is a myth that we need authority in order for our voices to be heard. This myth that we believe in, it confuses power with influence, because power comes with authority, and where there is authority, there is the power to make decisions. But if you pause and think a little bit about it, the truth is this. For you and I to speak up, we don't need power with authority. We need influence without authority. We may not have the power to make the decisions. We may not have the authority, but the truth is this. We can have the influence over those decisions, over that authority. And that influence, ladies and gentlemen, can be found in your voice. It is found in the way that you choose to talk, not habitually, but skillfully, intentionally, curiously, and with influence. We don't always have to talk to inform. we can change and choose to talk differently. We can talk so as to be informed. We can choose to influence by asking questions, because sometimes great questions are simply better than smart answers. We can choose to influence by being teachable, by speaking and leading from curiosity rather than from expertise. We can choose to influence by being courageously vulnerable, by holding our courage and daring to change our habitual conversations to understand and engage other people better. Now, we don't need authority to speak up, but we do need to know how to talk differently in order to speak up. We can actually learn to have influence without authority. And this lies not in a monologue, it lies in a skillful dialogue. It lies in our conversations. So if you resonated with all that I have been sharing so far, here are 5 things that you can do to become more aware, more intentional, and more skillful in your talk. Number 1, replying or understanding. From today onwards, start noticing what you are doing when people are talking with you. Are you listening to reply, or are you listening to understand? Now, Stephen Covey, the guy that wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he observed that many people listen to reply rather than to understand. Now, Peter Senge, the author of The 5th Discipline, observed that managers advocate too much and inquire too little. Understanding context is key to relevance. And the failure to understand is the failure to reply. In our conversations and in our talk, we can do what Stephen Covey advised: seek to understand so as to be understood. Number 2, acknowledging others in our conversations. Now, according to Tim Clark, the author of The 4 Stages of Psychological Safety, the need for inclusion is the most basic human need. People want to be recognized, they want to be heard, they want to be included. If they were to feel safe with you and be engaged with you, they need to feel that they are included in your conversations. So let me ask you this. In your conversations with people, how do you respond? Do you respond by acknowledging their views first, or do you unintentionally ignore them and respond with your own views? Have you been distracted before in a conversation? Do you multitask, or do you interrupt people in their conversations? Now, if your answer is yes to any of those questions, well, here are 3 simple steps that you can take to acknowledge people in your conversations. Step 1, echo back. So if I'm hearing you telling me, hey, Kim Pong, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? I can echo back to you by saying, yeah, I can see what you mean when you are talking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Or I could say, gosh, what I'm hearing from you is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right? That's echoing back. Step number 2, ask a question where it is possible. Ask a clarifying question. People loves it, when you are checking in with them. There's always room to make sure that the context of the conversation is what you and your friends think it is. So I could say, hey, what I'm hearing from you is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can I ask why AB is in A, B, C, D, E, F, G? That is asking a clarifying question. Now step number 3, giving your response. So when you and I echo back and we engage others with our question, what we are really trying to do is telling people that, hey, we see you, right? And we heard you. And when that happens, people feels included and they will seek influence to us, to you in that conversation. In other words, we are preparing them to be more ready, more willing to hear what our response to them is all about and what we want to say to them. So number 3, WAIT, wait. Now, WAIT is an acronym for Why Am I Talking? Now, I love this really, really much because this is one of the simplest reminders I've used to be more purposeful, more effective in all my conversations in the way I talk. And in my mind, when I'm talking to people, I'm literally telling myself, wait, why am I talking, right? Am I rambling? Am I lost my way? Am I getting to my question or to the point? Am I informing you, or do I want to be informed by you? That wait reminder, can trigger my conversation to go from telling people what to do to asking people what they would do. So that's wait. And now we come to number 4, give the response others want from you. Now, sometimes the easiest and best way of engaging people in our talk is simply to ask them, how do you want me to respond to what you just said? It is just as direct as that. And people are happiest when they are receiving from you what they are expecting from you. So if they're expecting you to ask and you asked, and if they want you to suggest and you suggested, or they want you to tell and you told them certain things, that would make them a whole lot more happier, a whole lot more engaged in the conversation. Share with people what they want to hear from you. And last but not least, number 5, sound wave. Now, finally, if you want something a little bit more specific about how you talk and how you can talk a whole lot better, I would like to recommend Soundwave. Go and do the Soundwave Brilliance 3 assessment. This is an online assessment that takes about 20 minutes to complete. It's really, really easy. It's really, really fast, right? And once done, the report will reveal to you your top 3 voices that you frequently and habitually use in all your conversations. And this is a great starting point because what you can see, you can invest into it, you can develop it. And your Soundwave Brilliance report lets you see the data and information on 3 things. Number 1, your top 3 preferred voices. Now for my top 3, it's inquire, it's probe, it's advocate. And number 2, it shows you the strength and weaknesses in how you talk. And number 3, the Soundwave B3 report gives you some suggestions on how you can talk even better. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have found my sharing this today to be really, really useful for you. But before I end, let me leave these 3 things with you. Number 1, Soundwave has done a really good job in figuring out how people talk. So I want to share with you a resource from Soundwave that I think you definitely would want to download. This resource gives you details on what are the voices or the verbal strategies that are available to us in all our conversations. They give you the definition and the distinct qualities of all the different voices that we have. So go ahead and download the resource because you definitely will find it very useful. Number 2, go ahead and send us an email that's listed here if you want to find out more about what you've heard from me today, or if you're looking at how you can bring quality conversations and engagement to your teams. All right. And finally, 3, check out our website at StrengthsAsia to find out some of the programs that we run publicly throughout the year. It might be something that you are just looking for. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I would like to end this session with one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln. And he said this: "I don't like that man. I must get to know him better." I remember the first time when I heard this, I told myself, if I don't like somebody, I will run away from that guy. But here Abraham Lincoln understands the power of conversations. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. Our talk is not fixed. Our talk is fluid because everything is conversation. And amazing things do happen between people when the quality of the conversations is good. This is Kim Pong. Thank you very much. See ya.